The line between rap stardom and street danger is razor thin in Baton Rouge, and no one embodies that more than NBA YoungBoy. Is he just a gifted storyteller, channeling the struggles of his city into music, or is he a calculating force, orchestrating real-life violence behind the scenes while the world listens to his hits? This story starts in 2017, when a shocking betrayal rocked a local rap scene, one that would ignite a chain of deadly events. YoungBoy's once unshakable bond with his mentor, G-Money, turns into a violent feud that sets the tone for years of murders, retaliation, and public speculation. From diss tracks that blur the line between art and confession to killings that leave communities grieving, the saga unfolds like a crime thriller. Over the next several years, 5 young lives would be claimed, each tied directly or indirectly to NBA YoungBoy, leaving fans and authorities questioning the true cost of loyalty, fame, and revenge. In 2017, the Baton Rouge rap scene witnessed one of the most shocking betrayals in its history, and at the center of it all was a bond that seemed unbreakable. G-Money, born Garrett Burton, was more than just a fellow rapper. He was a mentor, a big brother figure, and the man who opened doors for a young artist named NBA YoungBoy. From the very beginning, YoungBoy's raw talent and determination stood out. But it was G-Money who guided him through the treacherous streets and the equally tricky world of music. He gave YoungBoy a place to stay, taught him the ins and outs of the rap game, and even collaborated on some of his early tracks. Their relationship appeared unshakable, with YoungBoy publicly referring to G-Money as someone he trusted and looked up to. However, loyalty in Baton Rouge is fragile, and fame can test even the strongest bonds. The first fracture in their relationship came when YoungBoy decided to leave TBG, the Top Boy guerrilla crew, led by G-Money, to form his own group, Never Broke Again, NBA. While this move was seen by outsiders as a normal step in YoungBoy's rising career, within TBG, it felt like betrayal. What turned this business decision into a personal vendetta, however, wasn't music or money. It was family. Sources later revealed that G-Money had been involved with YoungBoy's sister, a relationship yet despite what appeared to be strong evidence, the case began unraveling. Key witnesses recanted. Footage was ruled inadmissible, and phone records proved circumstantial. By 2021, Lil Pap struck a plea deal for a lesser charge accessory after the facthand was released in 2022. The result fueled speculation about intimidation, luck, or legal skill. Meanwhile, YoungBoy responded musically, releasing tracks that many interpreted as referencing G-Money's death. Songs like Poor One appeared to detail their fractured relationship, leaving fans questioning whether YoungBoy's lyrical storytelling blurred the line between art and confession. The murder of G-Money marked the first in a deadly chain of events that would define NBA YoungBoy's reputation, setting the tone for years of violent escalations, and public intrigue in Baton Rouge. After G-Money's tragic death, the Baton Rouge streets didn't just grieve, they erupted. Within hours, speculation about who was responsible ran rampant, and tensions between crews escalated to an unprecedented level. At the center of the storm was TBG Quick, a figure who had long been in the shadows but suddenly stepped into the spotlight. Quick, a rising member of the Top Boy guerrilla crew, was known for his loyalty to G-Money and his ruthless efficiency when it came to defending the TBG name. With G-Money gone, Quick became the unofficial leader, charged with navigating both vengeance and survival in the unforgiving Baton Rouge streets. Unlike G-Money, who had cultivated a public persona and thrived on attention, Quick was low-key. He didn't court media coverage or brag in interviews. Instead, he operated behind the scenes, quietly consolidating influence and ensuring that TBG's reputation remained intact. Friends and rivals alike described him as strategic and calculating, a man who measured every move before acting. In the wake of G-Money's murder, Quick's approach would prove critical. The feud with NBA YoungBoy's camp, now organized under the Never Broke Again banner, had deeper roots than most outsiders realized. While G-Money's death was a flashpoint, the animosity had been brewing for years. YoungBoy had always been ambitious, willing to push boundaries, and unafraid to assert himself as a dominant figure in Baton Rouge rap. For TBG, his rise represented both a challenge to their influence and a personal betrayal, especially given the intimate connections between G-Money and YoungBoy's family. Quick quickly established that retaliation wasn't just about proving toughness, it was about survival. Baton Rouge streets had seen cycles of violence escalate into months-long vendettas, and Quick was determined not to let TBG fall into the same trap. Surveillance footage, social media posts, and insider accounts suggest. Yet despite the tension, Quick understood that legal scrutiny was a constant threat. Police presence increased after G-Money's murder, and the authorities were aware that any retaliation could draw national attention. Quick's calculated demeanor meant that TBG acted with restraint in public, leveraging social media and coded messaging rather than exposing themselves unnecessarily. The crew's online persona became a weapon in itself. Every post, every story, and every video strategically crafted to assert dominance while avoiding legal repercussions. By the end of this period, TBG Quick had firmly established himself as more than a follower or secondary figure. He was now a central player in a dangerous game that combined music, street influence, and personal vendettas. His rise symbolized both the resilience of TBG and the persistent shadow of G-Money's legacy, a reminder that even in death, G-Money's presence dictated the rules of engagement. With TBG Quick consolidating power after G-Money's death, NBA YoungBoy's camp wasn't about to sit idle. YoungBoy, fiercely loyal to his crew and protective of his reputation, began orchestrating a series of moves designed to assert dominance and send a warning to anyone thinking of challenging him. The streets of Baton Rouge, already tense from G-Money's murder, were now entering a dangerous phase where retaliation became inevitable. YoungBoy had always been savvy in navigating the intersections of music, street credibility, and public perception. Unlike TBG, whose strategy relied heavily on behind-the-scenes maneuvering, YoungBoy leveraged visibility. Social media posts, music videos, and cryptic messages became tools in a calculated campaign of intimidation. Every release, every mention, and every interaction was designed to remind the city that his influence extended far beyond the studio. Fans and foes alike watched as the rivalry evolved into a game of psychological warfare, each side probing for weaknesses while reinforcing their own image of invincibility. Reports from insiders suggest that YoungBoy's retaliation wasn't random, it was meticulously planned. Surveillance of TBG members' routines, careful mapping of territories, and discreet communications ensured that every action had maximum impact. YoungBoy understood that in Baton Rouge, perception was just as important as reality. A show of strength, whether through music or street presence, could shift alliances and intimidate rivals without firing a single shot. The first clear sign of retaliation came when diss tracks began to emerge from NBA's camp. These songs weren't just lyrical attacks, they were public statements, coded warnings, and reminders of past grievances. Lyrics referenced G-Money's death, TBG's influence, and YoungBoy's own rise. Meanwhile, TBG Quick continued to play his part with precision. He monitored YoungBoy's moves, advising his crew to respond only when necessary and to avoid reckless decisions that could expose them to law enforcement. Quick's leadership style contrasted with YoungBoy's more visible approach, highlighting a fundamental difference in how each side navigated the chaos. TBG's strength lay in discipline and control, while NBA's power came from assertiveness and high-profile statements. The clash between these strategies intensified the rivalry, creating a tense atmosphere where every decision carried potential consequences. Allies and neutral parties in Baton Rouge watched carefully. Local artists, neighborhood figures, and even fans were forced to pick sides or remain cautiously silent. Loyalty became currency, and rumors of shifting alliances spread like wildfire. Some feared that the feud could spiral into unmanageable violence, while others saw it as the natural progression of street politics intertwined with rap culture. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, aware that the next move could trigger a chain reaction with far-reaching consequences. As YoungBoy's retaliation continued, the narrative surrounding Baton Rouge rap evolved. Media coverage increased, social media discussions intensified, and the rivalry became a topic not just of local interest but of national attention. The feud was no longer confined to music or the streets, it had become a defining storyline of an era, capturing the complexities of loyalty, revenge, and ambition. The conflict between NBA YoungBoy and his rivals reached a dangerous new level with the emergence of True Bleeder, a rising Baton Rouge rapper whose crew aligned against YoungBoy. Dante Dorsey, known professionally as True Bleeder, was only 22 years old, but he had quickly gained traction in the local rap scene. Unlike G-Money or TBG Quick, True Bleeder had no personal feud with YoungBoy. It was his crew's alliance with NBA's enemies that placed him squarely in the CROSSHAIRS. By 2021, the streets of Baton Rouge were a complex network of alliances, vendettas, and retaliatory strikes. The original NBA versus TBG rivalry had splintered, creating multiple factions, each seeking dominance. True Bleeder and his crew, the Bleeders, positioned themselves as challengers, using both music and street presence to assert influence. They weren't just rapping, they were making a statement. True Bleeder and his associate Cliff were killed instantly. Two other members, including his cousin Corey, were injured but survived. The audacity of the attack, carried out in a crowded public space, sent a stark message to everyone in Baton Rouge. NBA YoungBoy and his affiliates were willing to strike anywhere, at any time. The Mall of Louisiana shooting was unprecedented in its public nature. Unlike previous incidents, which had occurred in relative secrecy, this attack demonstrated both confidence and an escalation in brazenness. The investigation initially focused on obvious suspects, members of NBA YoungBoy's inner circle seeking retribution for Ben 10's shooting. Police arrested several individuals, including Demetrian Grimm, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. However, the case quickly encountered obstacles. Witnesses were unwilling to cooperate, fearful for their lives. Physical evidence was minimal, as the shooters had carefully avoided leaving traces. Prosecutors struggled to prove who ordered the hit, and establishing a direct chain of command back to NBA leadership proved impossible. By August 2022, a grand jury declined to indict Grimm, citing insufficient evidence. Once again, a case that seemed straightforward resulted in no convictions. But public perception and social media chatter made clear what many believed. NBA YoungBoy's influence and retaliation were real, and he was perceived as orchestrating the hit. Fans dissected lyrics, social media posts, and interviews, interpreting them as thinly veiled admissions or celebrations of True Bleeder's death. In the aftermath, YoungBoy's music reflected the deadly seriousness of the feud. Tracks released following the mall shooting contained lines referencing public executions of enemies, making examples of rivals, and asserting control over territory. Fans noted specific references they believed pointed directly to True Bleeder's death and the events at the Mall of Louisiana. These lyrical responses reinforced the perception that NBA YoungBoy was intimately involved, even as law enforcement lacked concrete evidence to press charges. True Bleeder's death highlighted a disturbing trend: the public escalation of street conflicts in Baton Rouge, the shift from private encounters to brazen attacks in public spaces sent a warning to every crew and artist in the city. It also underscored the risks of aligning against NBA YoungBoy, regardless of personal involvement in past beefs. Loyalty, allegiance, and perceived disrespect could carry fatal consequences. The feud in Baton Rouge didn't stop with True Bleeder. As 2022 progressed, another young rapper became entangled in the violence. JD Youngin, a close associate of NBA YoungBoy. In early 2022, JD Youngin faced his first public incident that foreshadowed what was to come. A disagreement over a local show appearance quickly escalated online, with rival crews exchanging threats over Instagram, Twitter, and within days, rumors circulated that Youngin had been threatened directly, and local authorities were on high alert. While these threats initially seemed like standard posturing in the hyper-competitive Baton Rouge rap scene, insiders knew the stakes were deadly serious. Any misstep could trigger retaliatory violence. As the mall shooting had already shown, by mid-2022, the feud had fully entered the public consciousness. JD Youngin was performing at a small club when gunfire erupted outside. Fortunately, he was unharmed, but 2 members of his entourage were injured. Local media began covering the escalating feud, highlighting the danger of being affiliated with NBA. For Youngin, the reality was clear: his association with the rap superstar placed him in a position where survival meant constant vigilance, strategic alliances, and awareness of the city's ever-shifting loyalties. Social media played a major role in intensifying the conflict. Videos, live streams, and posts frequently documented confrontations, almost daring rivals to respond. Each public act of defiance or perceived disrespect became a spark for further violence. JD Youngin's own posts, while often intended to celebrate his music career, were scrutinized by enemies and fans alike, interpreted as subtle threats or statements of dominance. These posts not only raised his profile but also made him a target, reinforcing the cycle of retaliation. The situation reached a tragic turning point when JD Youngin was fatally shot later that year. Reports indicate he was targeted outside a recording studio in broad daylight, with multiple shooters involved. Law enforcement immediately launched an investigation, but, as had become typical in these cases, cooperation was minimal. Witnesses feared speaking out, and video evidence was limited. The official statements remained vague, noting only that the young rapper had been caught in the crossfire of ongoing gang-related disputes. Fans and the local rap community reacted with shock and outrage. Social media erupted with tributes, speculation, and, in some cases, accusations aimed at NBA YoungBoy's camp even, though there was no concrete evidence linking the shooting to him directly. The tragedy underscored the perilous intersection of music, personnel, and street alliances in Baton Rouge. For every fan, meanwhile, retaliation continued to dominate the streets. Small incidents, stolen vehicles, vandalism, and physical confrontations became precursors to larger, more lethal attacks. Every social media post, diss track, or public comment carried weight, often interpreted as a challenge that demanded a response. In this climate, young rappers like NBA YoungBoy had to carefully balance public persona with personal safety. One misstep could trigger deadly consequences, and for many, survival required strategic planning, selective appearances, and trusted alliances. In the aftermath of JD Youngin's death, public attention intensified. Fans flooded social media with grief and speculation, while media outlets dissected every detail of the feud. Analysts highlighted the broader societal factors contributing to the violence: poverty, lack of opportunities, systemic inequities, and a culture that glorified street credibility as much as musical talent. This contextual understanding didn't lessen the tragedy, but framed it within a complex network of circumstances that had allowed such conflicts to escalate unchecked. NBA YoungBoy, aware of the increased scrutiny, became more calculated in his public interactions. While his music continued to dominate charts and capture the attention of millions, he maintained a strategic distance from public confrontations. Insider reports suggest that he relied on close associates to navigate the streets, ensuring that messages of loyalty and threats of retaliation were communicated indirectly. This method allowed him to maintain influence while reducing direct exposure to law enforcement and rival crews. Community leaders, activists, and local organizations also attempted interventions, emphasizing conflict resolution and violence prevention. Grassroots efforts sought to reach young artists and their entourages, encouraging dialogue over retaliation. However, the deeply entrenched nature of rivalries, combined with the desire for respect and reputation in the local rap scene, often limited the effectiveness of these initiatives. Many young musicians felt trapped between personal ambitions and the violent reality of their surroundings. By early 2023, the feud had solidified into a long-term struggle with ongoing consequences. Each loss, each social media post, and each public appearance carried the potential to ignite further violence. For the families of victims and fans of the music, the pain was compounded by the public spectacle of the conflicts. Meanwhile, NBA YoungBoy's position as a central figure remained uncontested as influence over Baton Rouge's rap scene had grown. But so had the risks. Associated with being a primary target in a city defined by retaliatory cycles, the Baton Rouge saga illustrates. This saga calls for reflection. Music can be a powerful tool, telling stories, expressing pain, and building legacies, but when the lines between art and real-life conflicts blur, tragedy can follow. YoungBoy's rise, his influence over the Baton Rouge scene, and the tragic losses of those around him illustrate that fame does not shield anyone from danger. In fact, it can amplify it. For young artists chasing success, the message is clear. Visibility brings opportunity, but it also brings scrutiny, risk, and responsibility. Communities, too, have a role to play. Parents, activists, educators, and leaders must engage with young talent early, encouraging dialogue and alternatives to retaliation. Grassroots efforts to mediate conflicts and provide support can save lives, even in environments steeped in cycles of revenge and street politics. Silence or passivity allows violence to persist. Awareness, intervention, and accountability are essential to breaking the patterns that have haunted Baton Rouge for years. Fans, on the other hand, hold influence in subtler ways. Social media, streaming platforms, and public discourse shape narratives around artists and their environments. Praising violence, glorifying dangerous behavior, or sharing threats can unintentionally escalate tensions. Support can be powerful, but it must be informed and responsible. Encouraging artists to thrive creatively while advocating for safety and peace benefits everyone in the long run. Ultimately, this story is a wake-up call. It challenges all of U.S. artists, fans, and communities to examine the price of loyalty, fame, and street credibility. The Baton Rouge saga isn't just a series of tragic events. It's a reflection of broader societal struggles, of ambitions colliding with harsh realities. By learning from it, by making conscious choices, and by prioritizing life over reputation, we can honor those lost and help shape a safer path for the next generation of artists. Let this story serve as both a warning and an